I never thought that a day at our neighborhood pool would turn into a horror experience. My wife Priya and our two kids, Amir and Isla, were just soaking up the pleasant Sunday afternoon when it all occurred. We had only been in the pool for about 20 minutes when I spotted Karen Whitfield, our HOA president, walking towards us with a scowl on her face and something in her hand. Before I even had a chance to figure out what was happening, she was by the edge of the pool, holding what looked like a spray bottle directly at my kids. "Hey, what are you?" I started to say, but she had already begun spraying a thick white mist all over my kids. My wife screamed as both children started crying, confused and frightened. "You're getting too dark. It's not a good look around here," Karen sneered, continuing to spray, as my wife frantically pulled our children away. "I'm doing you a favor. There are standards in Whispering Pines." I leaped out of the pool, absolutely livid. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I demanded, grabbing a towel to wipe the sunscreen from my son's eyes as he sobbed. Around us, other families had gone completely silent, watching the scene unfold with shocked expressions. "Community standards?" Karen replied with a self-satisfied smile. "As HOA president, it's my job to maintain the aesthetic quality of our neighborhood." She gestured vaguely toward my family, and that includes making sure everyone looks appropriate. We had moved into Whispering Pines just 3 months ago, excited about the beautiful homes, the well-maintained community spaces, and what we thought would be a friendly environment for our children. The realtor had mentioned there was an active homeowners association, but assured us they mainly focused on lawn maintenance and holiday decorations. What she failed to mention was that the HOA was basically Karen Whitfield's personal kingdom. From the day we moved in, Karen had found ways to make it clear we weren't quite what she had in mind for the neighborhood. It started with a welcome packet that was really just 47 pages of rules and regulations personally delivered with a tight smile and a comment about how some people need extra help adjusting to our standards. Over the first month, we received 4 violation notices. Our garbage bins were visible for more than 12 hours after collection. Our mailbox was apparently 2 shades darker than the approved color. Our children's bicycles had been left on our own front lawn overnight, and my wife's garden containers were ethnically themed and therefore required special approval. We tried to laugh it off at first. Every neighborhood has that one person, right? But Karen's scrutiny only intensified. She began timing our family's use of the community pool clipboard in hand. She complained about the exotic spices when we used the community grills for a family barbecue. She questioned whether our music, which was just mainstream pop, was appropriate for the community aesthetic. Despite filing complaints with the HOA board, nothing happened. We later learned that 2 board members were Karen's close friends, and the others were too intimidated to challenge her. One neighbor quietly told us that the previous family in our house had moved out after 6 months of similar treatment. The tensions had been building for weeks, but I never imagined she would physically assault my children. Yet there we were, my kids crying, my wife trembling with anger, and Karen standing there with her sunscreen bottle like she'd done us some kind of favor. "This is assault," I said firmly, trying to keep my voice steady despite my rage. "You sprayed chemicals on my children without permission." Karen rolled her eyes dramatically. "It's just sunscreen I was helping. Your family is getting much too dark, and frankly, it's making some residents uncomfortable. This isn't that kind of neighborhood." There was a collective gasp from the onlookers. Even those who had tolerated Karen's behavior in the past seemed stunned by her blatant racism. I noticed several people had their phones out recording the incident. "What exactly do you mean by that kind of neighborhood?" I asked, making sure my voice was clear enough to be picked up on the videos being recorded. Karen, either oblivious to the recordings or too confident in her position to care, doubled down. "You know exactly what I mean. Whispering Pines has a certain look, a certain standard, and your family is starting to stand out in ways that don't align with our community values. Our community values include respect and common decency. called out Mrs. Chan from the other side of the pool. And nobody gave you permission to police anyone's skin tone. Karen spun around clearly, shocked that someone had challenged her. This doesn't concern you, Elaine. As HOA president, I have the authority to enforce community standards, and I show me where in the HOA bylaws it says, you can spray people with sunscreen because of their skin color. Interrupted Mr. Gonzalez, who had been quietly maintaining the pool area. I've worked here for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Karen's face turned red with anger. I don't have to explain myself to any of you. I am protecting property values and community standards. She pointed her finger at my family, and they know exactly what I'm talking about. They've been breaking rules since they moved in, trying to change the character of this neighborhood. That's when Samantha Taylor, who lived 3 houses down from us and had always seemed too timid to even make eye contact with. Karen stepped forward with her phone. I've got the whole thing on video from the moment you walked up and assaulted those children, and I've already sent it to the neighborhood group chat. Karen's expression flickered with uncertainty. For the first time, she looked around and seemed to finally register that at least a dozen people were recording her, their faces showing disgust and anger. This is ridiculous, she sputtered. I was helping. They should be thanking me for what? My wife finally spoke, her voice shaking with controlled rage. For attacking our children, for humiliating them in front of everyone, for telling them their skin is too dark for your precious neighborhood. I'm calling the police, I said, pulling out my phone. Karen's eyes widened. Don't be absurd. The police have real crimes to deal with. This is a simple misunderstanding that we can resolve through proper HOA channels. Assault isn't a misunderstanding, said Mrs. Chen, who I now realized was recording the entire interaction. And neither is what you just said about their skin color. That's textbook discrimination. While I spoke with 911 explaining the situation, I could see the panic starting to set in for Karen. She tried to leave, claiming she had an important meeting, but several neighbors politely but firmly suggested she should stay until the police arrived. Mr. Gonzalez even stepped between her and the exit gate. The police arrived within minutes. 2 officers listened to multiple accounts, viewed several different recordings of the incident, and took statements from my family and at least 5 witnesses. Karen kept interrupting, insisting that she was the victim of a conspiracy, and that as HOA president, she had the authority to enforce standards. Ma'am, said Officer Rodriguez, with remarkable patience. Being an HOA president doesn't give you the right to spray substances on children without their parents' consent. That's assault. And based on the statements and video evidence, there appears to be a discriminatory component to your actions as well. Karen's face went from red to pale in seconds. This is outrageous. Do you know who I am? I'm an executive at Meridian Financial. I've lived in this community for 17 years. I've maintained property values and standards that have made this neighborhood what it is today. Officer Rodriguez remained unmoved. Ma'am, I need you to turn around and place your hands behind your back. You're being arrested for assault and battery. We'll also be documenting the discriminatory statements for potential additional charges. The entire pool area went silent as Karen was handcuffed and read her rights. As the officers led her toward the exit, she turned to glare at us one last time. This isn't over, she hissed. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Officer Rodriguez gently guided her forward. Ma'am, I strongly advise you to stop speaking now. As Karen was placed in the back of the police car, stunned neighbors approached us with apologies and support. Many admitted they had experienced or witnessed Karen's behavior, but had been too intimidated to speak up. The videos of the incident spread quickly beyond our community, and by evening, local news stations were reporting on the story. 2 days later, an emergency HOA meeting was called, with over 90% of homeowners in attendance. An unprecedented turnout, the board voted unanimously to remove Karen from her position as president and from the board entirely. They also voted to initiate a complete review of all HOA policies and to form a diversity and inclusion committee. Karen was charged with assault battery and harassment with a hate crime enhancement. At her arraignment, she maintained her innocence, claiming she was just trying to help, and that her comments were misinterpreted. The judge was unimpressed and set her bail at $50,000. 6 weeks later, facing overwhelming evidence and multiple witness testimonies, Karen accepted a plea deal, a $10,000 fine, 2 years of probation, mandatory diversity training, and 200 hours of community service. She was also served with a restraining order preventing her from coming within 100 feet of my family. When the verdict was announced, Karen's perfectly maintained facade finally cracked completely. "This will ruin me," she sobbed in the courtroom. "My reputation, my career, all because I was doing my job and maintaining standards." As the bailiff led her away, the last thing I heard was her wailing about how unfair it was that she was being punished for helping people fit in